Pull back the veil and feel into the truth about Mother Mary and all of the vastness that her womb wisdom contains. Expand your knowing of who she truly was and is with Marguerite Rigoglioso. Honor yourself, celebrate your strength, empower your transformation with your Yin-care. This is the Yin-Care Podcast, and I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin-Care's Herbal Wash. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. So get your hands on some Yin-Care's Herbal Wash today. That's yincare.com. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin-Care. You are going to be truly blown away by Mother Mary's womb mysteries as they have been uncovered by my guest, Marguerite Rigoglioso. The womb technologies that have laid dormant and purposefully hidden are available to all women. I love so much how Marguerite unfolds the ready availability of Mother Mary, as well as Mary Magdalene and Mary Paragita, for daily healing, guidance, and above all, love. If this show inspires you to make any changes in your life, pause right there. Leave me a 5-star review, like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and even leave us a comment. It takes less than 5 seconds. Then head on over to yincare.com and sign up for the womb empowerments. Discover us on Instagram at yin_care or on X, Facebook, and YouTube at Yin-Care to connect with the Yin-Care community and learn about everything that's going on. And now, here's the episode for your listening and viewing pleasure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yin-Care Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. And 3 or 4 years ago, I was first exposed to the work of our guest today when she was being interviewed by Sasha Stone regarding content mostly from her first 2 books, The Cult of the Divine Birth Priestesses and Virgin Mother Goddesses of Antiquity. And I was incredibly intrigued, as you may be just by the titles, and began attending her monthly Mary Circles, where she would guide us in meditation and prompted journal writing. I then pursued further to work with her in her oracular capacity, having some readings with her that would assist in guiding me after my daughter, Carly, whom many of you have met in previous episodes, was heading off to college, and my world was slightly crumbling in, and bringing all of the energy that I once had prior to having kids and infusing that back into my work was exactly what I needed. And Marguerite was perfect for that. And I further studied her 3rd book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births, and partook in a good many of her course offerings that really led up to her launch of her current book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. All I can say is this is going to be a very juicy conversation. Marguerite Mary Rigoglioso, PhD, lives in Western Massachusetts and is the founder of 7 Sisters Mystery School, a world-renowned teacher of sacred knowledge and the foremost authority on the history, practice, and sacred significance of virgin birth. A trusted mentor to people on healing and spiritual paths, she draws on her decades-long research and experiences with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene to help uncover their hidden timeless teachings and apply them to our present day needs. The award-winning author of several books, including the ones I mentioned, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening, and The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. Marguerite has been recently featured on Gaia TV for her work with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, while her present focus is truly dedicated to 7 Sisters Mystery School. which has been serving its community for more than a decade now. As a mentor and teacher, Marguerite is passionate about helping people on their spiritual and healing path. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome in Marguerite. Oh my goodness, Marguerite, welcome to the Yin-Care Podcast.
Hello, Margaret. Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction.
Absolutely. It's so wonderful to have you here. I'm just so grateful we could finally make this happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to just really explain to everyone why what you have written about and what you have to offer is so relevant to what I'm offering here for the Yin-Care audience. And that is that coming into a deeper knowing of who and what Mother Mary is, as well as Mary Magdalene, truly can open us as women to a more fully embodied trust in ourselves and our own intuition, for one. It can also allow us to be more fully embrace our powerful selves as women, and her medicine can also assist us more in speedy healing, all of which is rooted in our womb. Would you agree with that?
Yes, very much so. Because some people think of Mother Mary as a kind of a static, passive maiden figure who doesn't really have very much authority and is kind of hidden, squirreled away in the back of a certain religious tradition. But what I've uncovered through research, direct experience and so forth, my own healing experiences with Mother Mary, is that she is much more than that. She is basically the most powerful female figure who ever walked the planet. So this is what we are drawing on today in our conversation to help either introduce or underline this version of Mother Mary for those who would find resonance or who might be surprised that Mother Mary can be a guide for them.
Exactly. I love that. And I just want to really point out, like, you do have a PhD. Like, this is a dedicated research scholarly effort. And so much of what you share, I love this book so much for so many reasons, but you have taken so much time to do in-depth research. And I'm reminding the audience of that because some of the concepts that we'll be discussing today seem like they come out of left field. And that's because we've been, like, the wool has sort of been pulled over our eyes as to who she is for specific control purposes as well, I would say, but also because we, and I have spoken to this in previous episodes of the podcast, that we have been controlled as women through our wombs, through our birthing process, through many different things, to not believe in the powers that truly exist there. So, you can speak to that. And then I'd love to get us started on a couple other things.
Yes, Mother Mary was the greatest womb master who ever walked the planet as well. She understood the physiology of the womb. She understood the energetics of the womb. She understood the powers of the womb because she had cultivated all these through yogic practices for, come to find out, many lifetimes, according to the late Hindu saint Sri Kaleshwar, who was very much had his finger on the pulse of all things Mother Mary. And so, he has written a lot about what her practices were. He has retrieved these practices from what are called the ancient palm leaf manuscripts of India and elsewhere. So this is really a codified system that she was involved in numerous life streams as she walked on Earth. She really was the prime example of the human being who was experiencing their transition into the next level, the next ontological level, if you will. In other words, they're what people are calling their ascension, right? Their awakening, their opening to their own divine nature is the simplest way to put it.
Right. And I just want to bring in, because you oftentimes also clarify that one of the ways you like to interpret the word ascension is your inscension.
That's right.
You want to share that with people? Because I love that.
Because ascension makes us feel like we're coming out of our bodies or off the earth plane. But really what's happening is we are embodying what's already within. So it is an inside job. That's why I call it inscension.
Yeah. And Mother Mary is the perfect example of that.
She really is. She is, she was a walking embodied light being who was a human. And that is what a lot of us are exploring now. What does that mean? How can we have more elevated, more empowered lives? What are the processes? She's a great teacher of that. And a lot of it has to do with our very simple human healing.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so that's a good place for us to start because it will, and mind you, a lot of what I'm going to be directing Marguerite to speak to is included in the book. So we're not going to give the entire book away because you really should read it. It's an amazing, amazing work. I listened to it, by the way, on audio. And just as a plug, I don't know if you meant it to go on Spotify, but it was available on Spotify with my subscription. And so just to let people know, I know that the physical book is really powerful, but I'm a big auditory listener as well. And I take things in that way. And you read your book. And I've listened to the other Mary book on audio, and you're a wonderful reader. And I feel like there's a transmission that comes through your voice as well.
Oh, good to hear. I intended that when I was recording it up at the Inner Traditions recording studio in Vermont.
I love that. Yeah. Well, it's very well felt. And also just want to say that as part of that book, she also offers guided meditations at the end of each chapter that are part of processing what she's teaching in the chapters. And one of the first ways, like I explained in the beginning, that I knew Marguerite was through these guided meditations. And so it's just, you get so much in this book. So just to encourage people to go buy the book, it's really wonderful. And we'll flash the book up and everything at the end and tell people where to go. But I do want to speak to a little bit about your coming into this and this whole process, because as you do explain in the book, is you are a scholar and you are very scholarly, but you are also interfacing with this divine feminine rising within you and connection with goddesses, and your journey to studying the goddesses through your master's and then PhD program. And then that led you into, and then there was some womb healing that kind of wove its way in there, just to add in the weaving portion of what Mary offers, weaving in the story of how your womb healing really participated in this journey, because I feel like that's an important conversation to bring forward with your history with your mother and your own health challenges, because we're oftentimes talking about how to interact with a medical system and structure as well. So go ahead and have the floor.
My goodness. Yeah, I had a number of episodes regarding my womb that required healing over the past 10 or so years. And I would connect with Mother Mary for all of them. And I had some rather remarkable experiences. I had what I would consider a miracle experience in the hospital. I had a miracle experience after having completed the Holy Womb Chakra teachings that are, with all the mantras that we were talking about, that Sri Kaleshwar has received, he retrieved, and that Mother Mary practiced, cysts all of a sudden disappearing, Mother Mary appearing to me in the recovery room after a cyst surgery and so forth. So yes, she has been there with me, and I have sought her out specifically for this. The womb is a place where a lot of women can both over give, they can over push, and they can over receive and try to over clear an environment. And so I've done both, right? Just over pushing with getting my work out there, helping people, developing the Seven Sisters Mystery School, and then also being that healer wherever you go, be it on a subway, a bus, an emergency room, there's always that with your family. We don't know this, but subconsciously we're taking the dross in through our wombs and trying to clear it out of our family system, clear it out of a situation. And after a while, we can get residue. We also can take in the karma and the energies of lovers, partners. and things like that. So all of these things result in energies that want to be dissolved, released, cleared, because they can have their physical manifestations, as I'm sure you well know, in the work that you do with women. And Mother Mary is there again, through the mantra practices. And I've developed my own practice with her that had these dramatic results, which is I would envision her coming from behind me and merging her womb with mine in this field of white light. And I did that at a couple of different cycles when I had issues, and it resolved the issues. So, yeah, I am a firm believer in Mother Mary and calling on her powers with the womb.
I love that. And I participated in one of the Mary circles where you did that specific meditation for us. And it was incredibly powerful.
Blessed be.
Yeah, it really was. It's such a great community. So people should know about that too. We'll show everybody how they can participate in that.
That's right, because it's evolved since we were together.
I'm sure it has. I know. I need to touch back in and see what's going on.
I think you'll love it. You'll love it. Yeah.
Oh, so cool. That's great. So, yeah, I would just can you share a little bit more about your journey as far as how you decided to, or how you came to be interested in the goddesses and how that led you to Mary, and a little bit of background on even your early exposure with your Catholic background and such? I love moving through the day, honoring all of who I am as a woman. That can be a challenge when imbalances such as damp heat, or toxic heat rear their ugly head vaginally, and issues such as yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and even HPV creep in. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. All the tools I may have in my repertoire to ground and center go out the window, and I feel myself coming slightly unglued, to say the least. Everything is so incredibly uncomfortable. But I was tired of finding product after product that completely obliterated all of a woman's microbiome, and honestly was worried for all the other strange but natural culinary items I was testing out inside my vaginal cavity. It seemed wrong to kill all the bacteria off and then work to build a healthy vaginal microbiome back up again. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin-Care's herbal wash. Research at the universities in China showed at the Petri dish level that at a 10 to 12% dilution, Yin-Care's herbal wash would lyse all yeast cells and other bacteria while still allowing lactobacilli to continue to proliferate. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. Its cooling properties not only cool the very upset sensitive tissues, but cools my head and allows me to come back into my body and ground into my life and purpose once again. If you've never used our wash and you plan to use it vaginally, be sure you purchase the combo pack that includes both the 180 ml bottle of Yin-Care's herbal wash and the 100 ml vaginal applicator. We now sell the bottle in two sizes, 100 ml and 180 ml bottles. So head on over to yincare.com. That's yincare.com. And by the way, Yin-Care's herbal wash feels excellent after some rather hot and heavy lovemaking, or even at a less sexier time, but incredibly important, postpartum. Yin-Care's herbal wash is excellent for postpartum care to cool things off, while also offering antimicrobial and antibacterial properties. So get your hands on some Yin-Care's herbal wash today. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin-Care.
Yeah, I was born, brought up Catholic, and I was mystical, so I would always try to find meaning in the masses and the homilies, but it was just never very exciting what was coming forth from the leadership there. But at Easter time, there would be these readings about Mary Magdalene, and that would perk up my interest. That spoke to my soul, as I think it has consciously or unconsciously spoken to the souls of many people. And so I left the Catholic Church when I was in college, but of course I was a spiritual seeker, right? So coming into my 30s, my early 30s, I went to a workshop that was led by a beautiful therapist in the Boston area named Greta Bro, B-R-O. And it was all about women and self-esteem. And I knew that I had self-esteem wounds. And so I thought, okay, this is a really good place to go in and try to experience some healing and understanding. What did she tell us? She said, well, you probably are not aware, but one of the greatest woundings that can happen to a woman's self-esteem is to be told that God is only male. Mm-hmm. And that actually there's a whole feminine side of the divine. And this was venerated for millennia in old Europe. It's still venerated in many places around the world. Here are some books I recommend for you. Here's a bookstore I recommend for you. And as it happened to be, I was working at Harvard Business School at the time, writing for their alumni magazine. And they were sending me on a trip to interview the president then of Levi Strauss.
Wow.
Blank. And I had to go to the Bay Area.
Oh, and wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump to go over to Berkeley, where this bookstore was still around. It's not there anymore.
What was it? Do you remember the name? Because I used to go.
Oh, gosh. No, I don't. I'd have to go look back through the notes.
Right on the main drag, though, right? On Telegraph, probably.
I think so. It was Patricia. A woman named Patricia owned it. I think she's been in Mexico ever since. But it had everything sacred feminine, everything goddess. I asked for some help. They plopped a few books on my lap. A couple of them were of Maria Gimbutas, the great archaeologist of Europe, who had done all the research showing that the original divine figure was the feminine in my own tradition of ancient Europe. They put Barbara Walker's The Encyclopedia of Women's Myths and Secrets, which was just this whole rewiring and reworking. And I just felt like my reality had been upside down. And that day it went and it turned right side up. And that was the beginning. And from there, I just couldn't get enough of these books. There was a sacred feminine, divine feminine program that was going on in the Boston area where I was living at the time. I did a couple of years of that. And then from there, I knew I really wanted to get serious about this. I thought about going into archaeology to follow in the footsteps of Maria Gimbutas, but really no archaeological program would give her work credence. So I went to the California Institute of Integral Studies. And that's where I started deepening into my exploration of all things goddess around the world, all things priestess around the world, many different layers of that through the master's and PhD. But after that, when I was in the Bay Area, figuring out what to do with all this information, I started giving public talks, public lectures on it, and I got led into doing ritual on the Marys. And then with the women I was meeting, I was really understanding Mother Mary on a much deeper level, a personal level, a spiritual mentorship level. And that, from like 2009 on, that really began my personal one-on-one with Mother Mary. I had already been talking about and teaching about Mary Magdalene when I was living in the Boston area. And now this started blossoming in California. And it was just a step-by-step, month-by-month, year-by-year practice and process of really understanding Mother Mary on a very deep level and putting my academic chops together with my experience and also working in meditations and sacred medicines and things like that. So it's been a long healing journey that still continues.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I love that. It's so funny because I feel like our paths should have crossed when you were in California, because I had actually looked into going to CIIS. I ended up getting my master's in health services administration at USF, but in Oakland, and I was working with a group called Daughters of the Goddess that met mostly in the East Bay. But one of the teachers of the Daughters of the Goddess actually had been a graduate of CIIS as well.
Wow.
So it was, there's just a lot of threads there. And when you were just coming into that in 2009, that deeper space is right when I was getting my divorce. So there's always something that, like a crux of that was my big.
That's right. These big life challenges, initiations, painful experiences are all spiritual initiations.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And let's see, I wanted to also, you touched on the sacred medicines as a way to deepen. And one of the things that you had offered in the past that I participated in was the lovely ceremonies where you really bring in sacred medicines and how to really honor them and work with them in a powerfully honoring and respectful and spiritual way that I feel like is in alignment with how Mother Mary would use them. And let's explain a little bit about, if you can touch on some of the stories of Mother Mary and the places in which she did use them as far as, and let's bring in a little bit about light conception now that everybody knows how deeply you have researched this.
Yes. So starting with the medicine, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene were known as the myrophores, the carriers of the myrrh. What was that? It wasn't just carrying around a resin or a perfume. The myrrh was a reference to the sacred medicine potions that they would make in oils and in incenses and various other, probably not just topical, but gustatory ways that would allow people to come into higher levels of consciousness, deeper levels of consciousness. And it's clear that this was an integral part of these mystery traditions, which is really what pre-Christianity and early Christianity was. These were mystery traditions where people would have lived experiences of opening their consciousness to the deeper realms. So the plants were very much facilitators of that. And fast forward to present times where some Latin American person thought to call Lady Cannabis Santa Maria. Why is that? Well, it's probably because the experience of cannabis, when used properly in a sacred way, would open you in a way that would connect you with the sacred feminine. And so there was an understanding that, this medicine belongs to the lineage of the Marys, right? Yeah. And it probably was being used anciently in the Middle Eastern world as well. There's certainly a lot of evidence that cannabis was used there, and there were all sorts of mixes of things that were happening. Brian Murarescu does a really good job in the Immortality Key to catalog out some of what these substances were, but all of the ancient mystery traditions used them. So Mother Mary was a carrier of this. Mary Magdalene was a carrier of this, and it was an integral part of their priestesshoods.
And you touch on that a lot in the book when she was going through the meditation and light conception of Jesus. Yes. There is reference to her using laurel, correct?
There's reference to her mother, Anne, who conceived Mother Mary.
Mary, right.
Miraculously before Mary conceived Jesus. See, they were in a lineage of women practicing this. So, yes, Anne's sacred medicine was probably laurel or some kind of laurel mix. Mother Mary, it's not as clear, but we are told that she ate food like a dove, and she ate from the hands of angels. These are all references to substances that she was using to train and tune her body into higher, deeper, open states of consciousness, ultimately for her to be able to have that light conception that her mother Anne did to conceive her, right? Conception without male actors.
Mm-hmm. So this is the virgin birth. This is what we're talking about. This actually did happen.
It was a thing.
Yeah. And so you actually studied this before you really delved into the Mary aspect with your first book. So can you explain a little bit of some of the route, like how you pieced it apart? And because the languaging in which everything has been put forward, and there has been removal of texts and deception with language and incorrect transcription and whatnot. Can you speak to some of that?
Yes. So when I was getting my PhD, my dissertation was going to be cataloging every single mention of ancient priestesses in ancient Greece. As I went through that, and as I started to read a book by Drunvalo Melchizedek, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, he stated outright that his guide, Thoth, said that virgin birth was a real thing. Now, simultaneously, I was studying the story and the experience, the history of the goddess Demeter and the goddess Persephone, her daughter. And I was reading a book by Anna Maria Corradini in Sicily called Mothers, essentially. It's called Meteres. The way she was describing how Demeter conceived Persephone, she called it parthenogenesis, which is what this is, conception without a male. I suddenly had this downpour that day in 2001 in my brother's apartment in Brooklyn that, virgin birth was a real thing. With all of these things in mind, as I started looking at this material about priestesses of ancient Greece, I started finding all these references to divine birth, divine conception, or conception across the veil with male gods, those kinds of things. And I realized I'm going to write about this phenomenon of miraculous conception, whatever the technology, be it parthenogenesis in the earlier phases or sacred marriage in the later phases, first with a disembodied being, then with a priest who was acting as the god. I was able to uncover a whole sort of taxonomy, a sequence of what happened, of these technologies, of how these women did this. I found so much information. I had cartloads of books, and that became The Cult of Divine Birth in Ancient Greece, the first book you talked about, and then the second book, Virgin Mother Goddesses of Antiquity.
I'll put these up so people can see what they look like.
So all the real strong ancient references are in those two books. Now, pretty much at the same time, I sidelined the whole thing about Mother Mary and her virgin birth, but very quickly on, I realized that what I was uncovering in ancient Greece in prehistorical times, that everything that was in the myths and the legends, that's history, but we don't acknowledge it as history. That was all part of a living lineage of divine birth that was really in many, many places on the planet, including possibly all over the planet. That Mary was only part of one lineage that was involved in this. And I started having these experiences using sacred medicine, using Santa Maria, where I would be downloaded with quite a lot of information about the reality of these practices. But whenever I would get an intuitive hit, I would have to go and find the research to support it. And whenever I would gather all this research together, I would use the medicine to put it all together and realize and understand what I was writing about. So it was this intuitive, intellectual figure eighting that allowed me to construct the whole thing. And Mother Mary was going to be a chapter of this dissertation that became The Cult of Divine Birth in Ancient Greece. But I was wisely advised that it was getting too long and you better put that aside for something else. So I kept it to Greece. And then it was really 10 years later, at least, that I started writing the book. And that book came out a number of years ago. It was a consolidation. So what I did is I put in really digestible form all the back research on divine birth. I made it like an introductory chapter for the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. And then I tease out how it is that we know that Mother Mary was a technician, a priestess of divine birth, using primarily one of her suppressed gospels to find all the evidence and correlate it with what I learned about ancient Greece, right? So this was the process of my uncovering divine birth, my exploring and explaining in understandable and sensible terms then how Mother Mary could have conceived divinely, something that is put under the carpet and nobody's can really believe, except through blind faith. But now all of a sudden, here was the explanation of how it had happened, what were some of the technologies involved, and suddenly we could embrace the idea of Mother Mary and others as divine birth priestesses for the purpose of bringing in a high holy avatar to the planet, somebody who was like a few levels above the average human, who could help us heal and get in alignment again, after these various periods of degeneration that we were undergoing through negative influences onto the planet. So that's just a whole big explanation.
Yeah.
The history of my work with that.
No, I love that. And I think that's really important for people to hear. And that I'm really curious. So if you're listening to this or watching this, and this is a new topic for you or news to you, please let us know what your feelings are about this. And because I've had like multiple layers of revelation around this for myself. I wasn't raised religious. My dad was Jewish. So I always had this connection, I always felt like when we would go through ritual celebrations, but we were not religiously celebrating, just ritualistically, like Hanukkah and Passover, basically, mostly just those two. There was this sense of having a deeper memory of being in that time period for me. But my mom was raised Christian, and the rabbi told them they would never last, and they both promptly became atheists. So I was left sort of on my own to discover. But so I never really felt like I had received been deceived by Mother Mary, because I wasn't necessarily super exposed to her.
Yeah.
That being said, it's super pervasive because all of the images and all of the text and everything is just that it was this very unattainable thing that was not so disconnected from what everybody basically on the planet was experiencing as the true 3D reality, which is that it didn't exist. And so to suddenly have this epiphany, when I first heard you talking about this with Sasha Stone, the first time I was like, what the heck? This is amazing. What other technologies are there that we don't know about, And I think my first inclination was really like, could I do this? Is this possible? Is this really possible today? And then progressively has been sort of like, I think everybody has to come into what's right for them. And that's not necessarily my end goal. I'm not here to have the end goal, but the end goal for me is so much represented in what you wrote about in this book, because it's talking about Mother Mary as a living, breathing woman on the planet, touching the earth and holding community and holding family and creating healthy relationships and holding that dynamic. And by God, that is exactly what I do all the time.
Yeah. So you're a living Mary. Essentially. And whether you knew it or not, these are some of the very roles, what you listed out, that Mother Mary was an exemplar of, that she was a mentor of, right? From the very personal and the very human to the communal, the collective, to the global, to the galactic. She was active on all of these levels, and so was Mary Magdalene. So we can jump in with them at any level. And believe me, I'm constantly jumping in at different levels all the time. If I have the anxiety that still comes up in the middle of the night, okay, I'm asking Mother Mary to hold me in her arms or put me in her womb, right? If I am still healing and releasing some trauma from the early death of my mother and all of the processes that she went through at the end of her life, I'm calling in Mother Mary, right? If I had a medicine experience where I called in my mother spirit for the first time in medicine under the auspices of Mother Mary, and it was quite profound, like that catalyzed a whole other layer of healing with my mother, acceptance and knowing, okay, all is well. You know, we're going through some healings together, my mother and I, and so forth. And then, of course, all of the esoteric and mystical teachings that Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene have. Who are our star kin? How do we connect with them? What do they have to teach us? How can we expand our own light body? How can we live a more joyful life of manifestation instead of grinding hard work? How can we connect with the fairies and other realms that Mother Mary was connected with, which I also write about.
I love that. I love that portion.
Yeah, you know, we are talking about interdimensional light beings that are connected with the planet, but are, you know, a phase shift away. But they have teachings for us. They have nourishment for us. They have healing for us. And Mother Mary is a bridge person for us with all of these realms, the elemental realms of the earth, the galactic realms of the stars, and so forth. She's a complete package, as is Mary Magdalene. And what they're telling us is, no, you're the complete package,
exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen. You are the complete package. That's why we're here. We're not here to be worshipped. We're here to shine the mirror and show you what's in there that got obstructed during the times of darkness on the planet, so that you can shine your light again and awaken and restore Eden on earth, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And it is such a beautiful, gentle, benevolent, innocent, loving, compassionate energy that I feel comes in. It is just so naturally healing.
Yes.
And really one of the things that I feel like because most of the people that are coming to this are dealing with a physical challenge in their body, oftentimes a challenge in their womb. And one of the things I always like to say is we really cannot know peace in the world unless we're experiencing peace in our body.
That is the absolute bottom line, the absolute bottom line. And I have to keep returning to that again and again. I've had a recent situation where I'm being laid out and I can't be running around, multitasking with tension, pushing again. And I have to really return to these peace practices, these peace meditations, these breathing techniques of just inhale 4, exhale 6, calm myself for like a good 10 minutes, and then my whole day shifts. If I don't do that, I don't have peace within my soul. I don't have peace in my work. I don't have peace with my partnership, my relationships, and then that cascades out. And so
it spirals out to everybody.
You know, peace is an inside job like anything else.
Yeah. And I feel like bringing that peace into the womb structure, and that the physical womb structure as well has light codes and offerings and technologies that we're just not aware of yet.
That's right.
You know, we're still coming into this, and holding that space with Mother Mary really allows us to drop into the possibility of learning what those are for each of us. And everybody has a piece of that sacred knowledge. So this is really a call out to everyone. This is not saying that Marguerite or me or any other individual has the answers in full.
You know, Marguerite is the conduit, all right? She's trying her best, but you know. Yeah,
I love that voice so much. I kept thinking, actually, I was listening to the book and I was like, that's so funny. That voice is not going to drop into the Audible version for sure.
It wasn't. But, you know, there are other ways that you can be Gloria and Sylvia from Long Island in the 5th dimension. Yeah,
that's right. Exactly. But these are just, you know, super important for people to know that you might be bringing forward some new wisdoms that are offered. And
everybody has a piece.
Absolutely. Talk about her relationship to the Sophia wisdom, and if you would, that would be good for people to hear.
Yes. So the Marys are masters of the womb. We've talked a lot about that here. They are masters of the heart chakra, the love, the physiology of the heart, and so forth. And they are masters of the seeing, the crown, the third eye, which is the Sophia wisdom, which is that door opening to this other dimensional reality. Sophia is the great goddess as we know her in the West. She is the wisdom goddess, the goddess of knowledge, information, but also the wise use of all of that, right? Which requires being tapped into your heart, tapped into your womb. So, she is this master, totem pole, if you will. And Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene are emanations of Sophia. She may be called other things in other traditions, and that's fine. But they are masters of this great goddess. And so are we all, or we can become that as we open to our wisdom knowledge, our multidimensional seeing and knowing, as we open to our heart compassion, having self-love, having love for others, as we open into our womb wisdom and our womb power, our feminine essence, okay, that has to do with both sexuality, but also creativity. So that is partly, right, what the great Sophia is as creatrix of all. And so we are returning to the Sophia light. The Gnostic Gospels tell us that this light was obscured when we had certain interruptions and interferences by non-friendly forces. And Yeshua, Blessed Mother Magdalene, and the whole Sophia Christos mission was all about, hey, we see what's going on, planet Earth. We are coming in to help you do a lot of clearing, a lot of healing, and a lot of awakening to your light body, because we want you to restore Lemuria on Earth, Eden, right? That is the way. The Earth is an Eden realm. It has been obscured from you for a very, very long time. And now is the time to start opening the shutters, opening the eyes.
Wonderful. And so all of this is basically what you would say, this unification, would you call that the Mary consciousness?
Yes, you could certainly call it that. You could call it the Sophia Christos consciousness, you see, because it's yin yang together. It's masculine, feminine together. It's about the inner unification of the two sides, right? And all of our divergent pieces within. So I would more call it the Sophia Christos consciousness.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Would you differentiate? Is there something you would call the Mary consciousness that would be different?
Well, I would say this is something that specifically has the resonance of mothering, healing, and specifically the feminine mysteries that are part of the Sophia Christic consciousness. There are the masculine mysteries that are associated, and there are the feminine mysteries. So the Marys really hold the feminine mysteries, although they have gone through inner unifications, the bridal chamber, as it's called in the ancient Gnostic tradition. So they really do carry both, which is why Mother Mary was able to conceive a child by herself, because she had put yin yang in such complete balance within herself that she's like, oh, I can conceive. All right. But we are talking here about the reemergence of the sacred feminine, which is needed. It's needed as a balancing. So they are here right now to hold that frequency quite a bit so that women can just come back into themselves, back into their power, their feminine understandings, and then men can meet them in harmony.
Perfect. I love that. I also love that you reference in the book, and I want to share this with you and everyone, that you bring in the multicultural variations of the Marys, that there are other goddesses or celebrations of Mary throughout the world. And so
Oh
I
my
know
gosh.
you had visited a Chinese temple in Chinatown and had a powerful experience there. And I think I had communicated this on your post, but this is my beautiful statue, if you can see. And this is the Queen Mother of the West. And she is usually on the very center of my altar, but she's surrounded. I don't know if you can see, I'll raise her up. The bottom is by waves of
Yes.
water. And she's just
Yes.
this glorious woman. And when I've researched her, what I love so much about her is that she truly is embraced by the Chinese people as a household goddess that was just used for everything, and a representation that women, my experience of that was more approachable than Mary was to me for a very long time. And so, speak to that.
Well, yeah, you probably have past life memories with that, which is what makes it so comfortable to you. But that goddess of the East is really the Eastern resonance of the goddess of the West, being Mother Mary, Sophia, however we would like. And there's so many other goddesses, but that valence there is frequently called Kuan Yin, right? Mm-hmm. Kuan Yin or Tara, the goddess of compassion, it really is the equivalence with Mother Mary. And Matsu is the Taiwanese emanation of Kuan Yin. And so she has a whole life in Taiwan, and then now in San Francisco, there's a Matsu temple that I have visited numerous times. So these goddesses are the localized versions of this great Sophia, right? Available to anyone on the planet. They can look in any way, shape, or form, because it's important for people to see the divine as they are. Mm-hmm. It's important for women to see the divine as feminine. We need a mirror, a reflection. It's important for any culture to see the divine as a reflection of them. They're not looking at, the chiseled jawed Jesus, or, they have a different version of Jesus, as that should be, a different version of Mother Mary. But it's all the same living stream, you see. And once we understand that, everything comes to peace. There's no more religious warfare. Your goddess versus my goddess, your God versus my God. Well, if we go deep enough, it's all the same stream, right? So that's what we want to understand when we're looking at differences. So it's unity in diversity, diversity in unity. That's the Pleiadian way.
And she has connections to the Pleiades too, which you go into deeper.
She absolutely does. I go into that more deeply also in my Mary and Magdalene priestess training, which we might chat about a little bit, where I really open the doors to Mother Mary as part of the Dove Mother lineage, which is what the Pleiades are. These are 7 mothers who have seeded humanity with a lot of their DNA and their knowledge. This is a whole history that is being uncovered, and that I discuss, and that Mother Mary is right in that lineage. These female beings were understood to be doves, right? This is also concerning what is called the rose lineage. The symbol and the actual flower of the rose carries this wisdom lineage of the Marys, of the Pleiades. So we're starting to understand the deeper meanings to all of these symbols and what it means about our actual human history, one that has been obscured. Because when we reclaim our history, we reclaim our future, right? We reclaim our power, we reclaim our future. And so that's what I'm all about in my books, in the Mary and Magdalene Priestess training, which is enrolling now and starting.
Let me pull that up for everybody so they can take a look at that. I'm going to actually this is the current book that we are talking about, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. It's a beautiful book. I love the cover of that. It looks gorgeous, Marguerite.
Thank you. Inner Traditions did such a great job. And for everybody, it's very readable. And it's very quickly readable. It's not an onerous read.
No, and it's super it flows so well. It's so well woven together. And thank you so much for sharing so much of your personal story in this text.
It was time. It was time because I'd been a little bit more behind the academic veil. And I was just like, okay, no, this has to be integrated.
I think it had to come that way, though. I really do. So it's all divine timing. This is the one that came prior to that, the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, Mary and the lineage of virgin births. And she does recap that in the current book, the Mother Mary book, briefly as a very condensed, but you go into so much more detail in this book. It's really quite amazing. So let me do that. And then let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen here. This one. So this is the priestess training that Marguerite is offering. If you go to the homepage, which is sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and it's under courses, it's right there, that first one, but I've already got it pulled up here. And do you want to go ahead and share with everybody a little bit about what this offering is?
Yes. So this is for people who either are curious, deeply curious about the Marys and having a relationship with them and understanding how they can help you in your life, or who already have some kind of relationship but want to go deeper. This is about becoming the living Mary, the living Magdalene. What that means, it's not a lofty thing necessarily. It's what you were saying at the beginning when you were talking about really living from love, really being a good conduit for your family, working in alignment with what turns you on, those kinds of things as a spiritual person, and diving into their mysteries such that you can unlock these doors of your own knowing, your own remembrance. Okay. This is a lived walk with the Marys over 6 months, September through February, where you are deeply awakening the Mary and Magdalene energy within you. You are being supported in that. You are understanding what that means for you specifically, uniquely, because no one path is the same. It could be you are just bringing this to your family life, or it could be that you're bringing it to a more public kind of role, whatever it is. This is a lovely, ease-filled training that has 2 live experiences a week, a teaching call and then a ceremony, where optionally you can work with the sacred medicine of Mama Cacao, a very lovely, loving, not crazy at all medicine, where you can awaken and integrate everything you've been learning for the month. And then there are many videos, learning videos that you can look at your own time, learning and healing audios, skills development as a sacred woman, that kind of thing. And we also have group experiences, group mentoring, a little bit along the lines of what you experienced, Margaret. We did the other course together. Yeah.
I love that. And I just want to encourage people, if you're feeling curious about this, we have another offering that you can take a look at as well that will be sort of like a baby step to see what you think. But I know 6 months may seem like a long time, but I can tell you that it's just something that it's part of what I have used as part of my own health creation journey, is to step more in a more committed way into some of these types of studies. And what I've found is that my whole world, like my whole health, my whole happiness, everything around me starts to change when I make that first step to say, I value me, I'm worth this course, and really truly everybody in your life is going to benefit from it. Yeah. So you may feel like it's a kind of, sadly, a normal thing for women to feel like this is like a selfish thing that I'm doing to take time to, but it really is the most loving, giving thing you can do for yourself and your family if this resonates with you.
That's right. And you'll know. And, if people scroll down on this page, they can sign up for that 2.5 hour class, which is called,
right. I think it's here too.
Yeah.
I've got it pulled up here, and I feel like it was under, was it at the bottom?
It's kind
of how they find it. Okay, let me go.
A third of the way down. If you just scroll down, It's the Mary and Magdalene. That's it right there. You just passed it.
Oh,
Just
right
passed
here.
it. Yeah.
Right here?
There
Okay.
you go. Right
So
up there.
right here.
Right up there in the black
Right
area.
here.
Yes.
And then you'll get a link. You'll get a link that goes here. There is this, right? Isn't this the replay?
Yes, it's it. The Mary and Magdalene womb heart activation, where you are going to explore, really experience the living path of the Mary priestesses, because this is not just about learning intellectual information about the Marys as icons,
right?
But walking with them as teachers, healers, and mentors for you and enhancing your life. So yeah, people just sign in right there with their name, the email. You'll get immediate access to it, and you'll get a sense of what the training will feel like and a little taster of some of the topic areas that we go into.
Exactly. I think I found it here under your events too. But
yes.
But let me tell you guys, when you go to her site, sign up for her newsletter. You can always cancel if you don't want to do it. But Marguerite has beautiful blogs and beautiful words of encouragement that are really, I always find, are super appropriate and land at perfectly relevant times. So you'll definitely want to do that. She also has, I'm trying to see where you've got the Holy Womb Chakra teachings, which go more deeply into the teachings of Sri Kaleshwar.
Yes,
and you can do mantras on demand. I believe that's available.
Yes, all these courses are on demand.
Yeah. And her books are listed here, her blog. So anyway, just cruise around and check it out. She links so many things with Guinevere and the fairy realms. And a lot of this is in the book that we were discussing. So I won't waste time trying to go into all of that depth, because that would take a lot.
Yes. But you are like probably our most frequent flyer. Honestly, it's amazing.
Well, I just, I found like I just sort of went to a spiritual university when my daughter left school. And I just was like, well, why wouldn't I sign up? Well, why wouldn't I say there was, suddenly I realized how important that was for me and my own growth. And it was so much what I really required to move forward, and was so fed by it. And everybody in my family benefited from it. So
that's so great to hear.
It's so true, Marguerite. You're a wonderful instructor and oracular guide. And I do want to let people know a couple of things. So the website is sevensistersmysteryschool.com. And seven is
written out.
Yeah, it's written out. SEVEN, and then sisters, plural, mysteryschool.com. And all of this will be listed in the show notes as well, and everything. And she also has a couple ways to reach her on social media. She's got a Facebook page at Seven Sisters Mystery School. She has an Instagram at Marguerite Rigoglioso, and that's a little bit more complicated to write, but it's her full name basically for Instagram. And she's also on YouTube, and it's Marguerite Rigoglioso 7, number 7 this time. And she has a lot of really great YouTube videos there if you are inclined to see her in video format, interviews. And she also you were doing regularly meditations with Lady Cannabis.
Yes. Every once in a while, I do that through my Bridging Dimensions show.
Right.
That's been a little bit on hiatus, but as I've been just involved in the development of these other things. But yes, every once in a while.
But they could go back and look at some of them, because they are really cool.
It's still there. Yeah.
Really, and so definitely check that out. I did want to just, if you have just a couple more minutes, Marguerite, I do want to just bring topically one more piece to the table. And that is that being that the womb is the dwelling place of the Marys. And one of the beautiful things that you bring forward in that book is that she went to the cave to create through light codes Jesus in her womb. She returns to that, or to birth him. Was it
to birth him?
To birth him. And then and she returns there for her death.
Yes.
And so through she's present in the cave through the birth and the death portal. And I just want to point out here that I'm gonna maybe forget a couple of the things, but it has been studied that the most essential pieces for the birth portal are quiet, darkness, non-observance, not being observed by anyone else. And I'm forgetting, I feel like there's one more in there, but these are all the things that Mary knew were important in bringing a powerful birth to be. And I want to just contrast that with what we have created and in our current realm of medical system, which is to be under bright lights, constantly told that we can't trust ourselves, that someone else knows better than we do. And that piece of it, to hopefully inspire women to know that they can trust themselves and that Mary can be especially powerful to harness in the possibilities of conception and in birth, if that's the phase of life that you're in. You want to speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great final thing to tie it really into a lot of what you're doing with Yin-care and your work. These teachings of Sri Kaleshwar that are in the Holy Womb Chakra teachings are really all about generating the power back within your womb by first clearing it of these unwanted energies that I talked about at the very beginning. And then they confer upon you abilities, right? And one of the abilities that is developed is the ability to conceive a child divinely. Maybe not through the technology that Mother Mary did as parthenogenesis by herself, because she was such a high adept, but with a male partner. There's a 2-mantra sequence. So you, when done with intention and sacredness and luscious sexuality, you can conceive what Sri Kaleshwar calls a divine child. And these mantras can very much be used for self-healing. They were part of my own healing regarding cysts and masses that were appearing and then disappearing because of the mantra practices and so forth, right? So that technology is part of the empowerment. And I know you have many other streams and pieces and teachings about that, and there are many others, but these holy womb mantras and processes are very much governed by Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus, according to Sri Kaleshwar. They all use them, they contributed to them. And so this is another way in which East and West merge. We don't have to have any difference between Hindu traditions and Christian traditions. It's, again, we are seeing the unity and the oneness of everything in the theater of the womb. And so I really do encourage people through this mechanism and other mechanisms to focus on their self-healing, focus on what is the body telling you, right? What are your symptoms telling you? And working with reputable healers in that process. And sometimes Western medicine comes in and sometimes something else is coming in. But that's what I would say to address that question. I hope that did so.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's wonderful. I love that. So I guess obviously they can watch that free 2-hour video that they could sign up for.
Yes, it's called the Mary and Magdalene Womb Heart Activation. Yeah. So it basically weaves in together so many of the things that we've been talking about for you to experience this in your own body and have some takeaways, processes. And then there's a free meditation that I give with it so you can revisit it. There's a free altar guide that you can print out and put on your altar. Oh, yeah, right. The womb light, the heart light, the crown light, all of these things are how to experience the Mary path.
I love that. Well, I think that's a perfect place to leave them with something that they can do immediately. Is there anything that you feel like for you that I have forgotten or that you'd like to add to this conversation before we wrap up here?
This has just been such a beautiful, heartfelt conversation. I really appreciate, Margaret, your research and your preparation for us to be able to go so deeply. and I honor the work that you are doing on multiple levels. I know you have many burners on in your life. And I would just say, just many, many blessings to those of you listening, women, men, people of all sexes. Just feel into your heart and know that these resources are available to you. The Marys are available to you if you're curious. And, this is part of the support team on planet Earth here, right? Mm-hmm. They are one of the families that has been here to help us through what have been some really difficult times, which we all know because we've all had trauma, right? We mm-hmm. all see ongoing trauma in our world, and life does not have to be this way. And this is what the Sophia Christos mission is all about, is helping us to awaken to that understanding and empower us in it.
I love that. That's perfect. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Marguerite. Thank you for coming today. So honored to have you here. And it's just been a delight, truly.
You're welcome, beloved Margaret. So great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. What an honor it was to have Marguerite to share her wisdom with all of us in this interview. I am just so grateful. If you feel the tug in your heart and womb to go deeper into the Marys and how you can work with them in your life, you will definitely want to check out Marguerite's upcoming course, the Mary and Magdalene Priestess Training. Enrollment for her course ends August 28th. So click on the link in the show notes and sign up. I guarantee you will be grateful you did. Working with Marguerite is life-changing, and the content of this course will be hugely expansive. I'm on a mission to help you remember and reignite your own intuition through your womb wisdom so that you are ready, willing, and able to step fully and completely into your own sovereign health creation journey. Shows launch every 2 weeks wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to head on over to yincare.com and click on signing up for our womb empowerments, as well as check out our womb wisdom store, upcoming courses, and services that I offer. And of course, you can also find us on Instagram at yin_care and on X, Facebook, and YouTube at yincare. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising, and this has been the Yin-Care Podcast. Until next time, honor yourself, celebrate your strength, and empower your transformation with your Yin-Care.